All right, pop quiz here. Is this a maple leaf right here? Often when people are starting out, wanting to learn about the natural world and build their natural awareness, and you start wanting to identify the different types of trees and plants out there, we sometimes call this the wall of green because so many of them look so similar. So look at these two leaves right here, side by side. One of those is a maple and one of them is not. But look at how similar they actually look. So in today's video, I'm gonna share some of my top tips for beginners starting out looking at trees. So right off the bat, the fact that it looks kind of like a maple leaf is super helpful, but it's good to know there's a number of trees that have maple-like or maple leaf-like looking leaves, and there's a number of plants and shrubs that do as well. So that's one piece of information that's useful, knowing that it looks like a maple leaf. Let's chat about some of the other things that can help you decide, is it actually a maple or not, and maybe even what type of maple it is. So the next thing that we're going to look at is actually the branching structure. So come over here with me for a second. Probably the most helpful thing to know is that maple trees have what we call opposite arrangement, meaning their branches grow opposite from each other, one here, one there. Alternate would mean that they alternate from each other like that. So opposite, alternate, opposite, alternate. So if we look at this tree right now and I break it down, look at that nice and close there. See how we actually have an alternating pattern. So there's one just on the one side there, and then there's a space. Now it's on this side, up, now it's on that side. So that alternate piece right off the bat tells us that it's not a maple tree, even though the leaf looks like a maple leaf. A couple other things over here, if we come in closer, we can take a look at the bark. Now this is interesting, some folks that didn't really know trees well might even think of this being like a birch or something like that, because it actually has this like shaggy kind of bark to it. It's actually flaking off. You can kind of see all over the ground over here, these little pieces. You wouldn't see that in a maple tree. So what's beautiful about this one is you get this kind of cool layered bark. So look at that beautiful green, and then this brown stuff over top that's kind of peeling off. So this is actually a sycamore tree that we're looking at. And that brings me into the third thing that we'll use for identification is the actual habitat that we're in. I'm down in Welland right now, Welland, Ontario. We're right on the edge of the Welland Canal and the Welland River. And we're kind of on that edge zone for this habitat that has what we call the Carolinian forest, or Carolinian species of trees. So this one here, the sycamore tree, is a Carolinian species of tree. Where I live up further north near the edge of Algonquin Park up on the Granite Shield, even moving closer to the boreal forest, we don't actually have these Carolinian species up there. So up where we live, if it looks like a maple leaf, it pretty much is a maple if it's on a tree. But when you get down south, there's a lot more like that. So habitat is really, really useful. That branching is really, really useful. And then we can also just look at the leaf characteristics themselves. One thing that's kind of neat about this one is there's this I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but there's almost this little white fuzz on there. I can feel it with my fingers more than you can maybe even see it on there. So all of those tell me, biggest one being the arrangement, that's not a maple tree, even though it has a maple-like leaf. Now let's actually go look at a maple tree. We'll go across the trail here. We'll go to this one here. So just to follow up on those same points, so this one is our classic sugar maple tree right here. This is the one that you make maple syrup from. Although pretty much all the maple trees you can actually make maple syrup from. This one just has the higher sugar content, which means you don't need to boil it down as much or for as long. But let's look at the branching pattern here. See the difference there? So this is opposite arrangement. So as soon as I see that opposite arrangement, and you go down to the next one, it does the same thing there, opposite arrangement. That tells me that I'm in that maple family with the opposite arrangement. Now there are other tree species that have the opposite as well, but remember we have a maple-like leaf with the opposite arrangement, tells me it's much more like a maple tree. I look at the bark over here, it's quite different as well, right? Remember again, that sycamore bark, you had that really cool kind of green with the flaky gray. So very, very different looking bark. So there's a few different tricks to help you start breaking through the wall of green. If you're interested in becoming a better naturalist, increasing your natural awareness, then check out my website, chrisoutdoors.ca. We've got all kinds of training and learning resources over there. I hope you enjoyed that video. We're gonna go do a little bit more exploring.